This week's channel message from the angels is an important one, telling us that we are now entering a time when, if you've been feeling the frustration that's in the air, if you've been noticing the polycrisis that's all around us, they're telling us that these are symptoms of the unraveling of the way things have been, that the methods of trying to get things done, they say, will no longer be working. And we need to learn a new way of doing things, which is much more in flow. And in this message, they go into it, they tell us what it is and how to do it. It is an awesome, exciting, and very uplifting message. I also want to invite you, if you do not have a regular healing method, this is an important time for us to be working on our individual healing. If you would like one, or if you already have one and you would like to add to your healing method, I am hosting this Sunday is our regular monthly peace bathing session. These are healings over Zoom. They're group healings with the angels. I channel them and they come through and they bring us powerful healings that are very specific to the times that we are in. So if you would like to experience that, you can find out more on my website. So it's going to be this Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific on my website, which is anntucker.com. All right, so here is the message. Let's dig in. We are bringing to you for perusal an understanding of what you are now. The times approaching are never far off in your minds. There is the element of understanding that you are incorporating into the density of this realm. There is the knowledge of what this was and is and can become. And these must integrate into a total life sum of what you are and can hold. The accountability of a life of your own is to be employed in the now knowing, is to be thought of and contemplated and considered. You are evolving within that context, within an understanding of yourself, within a frame of reference as being disposed to come and try hard and do well and succeed, and be that self that you are here to evolve into. We see that you are in this moment finding yourself set adrift, that the template of life and instructions which you came with no longer apply, that all that has been done and welcomed is now unraveling. You find that the casement of this orchestration needs refitting. There is no portal, no window into this world by which you can contain an old frame of reference. The times coming are setting yourselves into motion in a way that cannot be stopped. It is nearer still than you imagine, and you are already in it. The appearances among yourselves of changing, differences, the methods by which you are accomplishing what you came for have already changed. There is within the self the desire to remain stable, to stay fixed, a point of knowledge of having been, of what you are. We say these are overturning a new leaf, a new fragrance, and this is unsettling. The instigation of this creates in the self untoward action, a desire for removal from here, a desire to repeat nothing of this performance, a desire to stay away, to fold in, to harbor for yourself only that which is required, and to stay low and insignificant. We say you do nothing of the sort simply by being the breath that you are. You live in prosperity simply by elevating the self to the frequency of I am all things. You become that which you are emboldened to achieve. You cannot stay the same. You cannot stay mired in the mixed up causality of this time frame. You are moving by yourselves, within yourselves, and of yourselves into an entirely new contextual framework by which you will pronounce the self to have become and to be held within an evolution of the human species. What does this feel like, look like? How can it be welcomed more readily? We say you are within it now, and you feel the context surrounding yourselves. You feel your reluctance. Where are you dragging? Where are you held down? Where do you feel yourself up against anything? What is it that seems immovable, an objective you cannot achieve? Where are you frustrated? The template is here. The template of a life of constraint that can be omitted. Lengthening time, as we have said, stretching out the sensation of living, takes for the self a new set of parameters by which you can achieve what you are seeking. You can lengthen the time of your own understanding of what is difficult and allow the self to find the gaps in your perception to see things differently. You can harness the new way of offering within which the self can now be open to the transference of Godlight more easily, can find the self in flow more rapidly, can feel the trodden upon, denatured self give way, and find in its place a heightened state of reflection and affirmation within which all flows in grace. We say the context that you are in now, it frustrates the self deeply. It pits the self against something which seems immovable. There is amongst yourselves a quagmire of thinking, of complexity, problem solving, a sense of selves as in dire circumstances or trouble, of convoluted pathways that need figuring, puzzling, where you cannot seem to find your way yourselves. There are difficulties you are having, sometimes grave challenges you are in. These are all transfixed within the energy of keeping and holding and locking down. These are all held within the frequency of having, holding, making, doing, retaining, forcing, controlling. These are held in the old ways of beginning and being. These are in a state of flux, in the stages of ending. They are terminating around yourselves. They are drifting. They are not meeting their ends. The methods by which you could create, the methods by which you could orchestrate a life seem to be not working, seem to be adrift as they are, we say. They are changing. The world is mired in the complex evolution of many souls united as one spirit. You are all intermixed and intermingling in the process of your own shifting. Thus, the boundaries and solutions of the lives you lead are no longer discernible. You become like a bull that charges its own reflection, the self that cannot comprehend its own misery, but keeps trying and trying and trying again. We say this state of things, of the knowledge of what you are, confuses the self. It draws you back into old patterns of behavior and solution to find the self-seeking methods and ways by which you have done for yourself in the past. These are no longer working. We say, let go yourself. Let go your pride. Let go your effect. Let go all that seems logical and surmisable and simply be. Rest in the space of inaccomplishment. Stay in the space of the gravest forces and sense you are held in the divine love of expression, and know this is the pathway forward, to simply be, to rest within the shell of your own physicality and trust that all is well, to put the self no longer in a juxtaposition to what is, but to sense there is something new coming. There is a new pathway forward you cannot feel, but it exists nonetheless. The more you are open, the more you rest well into the feeling of being supported, the more it appears. It is the sense of what you are expanding to include the definition of your higher self. The sense that you are monitored and made by the divine energy, that you are this, that you can improve your lives, shatter old thinking, let go of old ways, and simply be. Find the frustrations you've experienced to dissolve like old thinking. The ways will part. The change is now, and you are experiencing the beginnings. We thank you. So this is a super cool message. I love this message. It is, to me, this is saying, like, it's really describing, like, what have we valued in the past, right? What has been important to us? We've had this perception of what it is to succeed in the world, and it's been all like the, grinding it out, work hard, play hard, discipline, fight it. It's like, it's been this idea that you're constantly having to push a boulder uphill, and the person who pushes the longest and hardest will win. And that has been true, right? The people that really have grounded out, that has been one of the recipes for success in this world. And that has flourished or been successful because we have been in this state of imbalance. Like that's been the rules. You know what I mean? And they're saying that no more. And they're saying that that's going to be a period of real frustration when people feel like, well, this is what always worked for me in the past. Why isn't it working anymore? Like, why am I finding that things seem to be like, I just can't seem to get traction? And they're saying the reason for it is that the old system, the old ways are unwinding. It's like this. I think that it's funny because Eckhart Tolle just talked about the other day. He said that new way is being ushered in or something, and the old way is dying a noisy death. And I think that's funny, the idea of it's noisy, because it's like, it's not a gentle process. It's not an easy process. We are all clinging to the old ways and to the ways they make us feel safe and the ways that they're predictable and we know how to navigate them. But this is a new time. And we have to behave in ways that seem very counterintuitive, that seem very against everything we've been taught. That is, how do you succeed in the world? This is the opposite, it seems. And I don't believe they talk here about inaction and inactivity and just being. I don't think that means that you stop working. That's not what they're talking about. They're not talking about you just throw away masculine energy. We still need it. We are trying to bring things into balance. We're not trying to replace masculine with feminine. We're trying to before it was like this, where masculine was on top and feminine underneath, we're trying to bring it into this, where the two support each other. And so, but that does mean that we have to learn skills that have been repressed that we don't know how to use. And those skills are all about learning how to flow, learning how to let energy move through us, to not resist, to not be in resistance. So the whole thing before was like, and they list it in here, they talk about control, that it's been all about like, how do I lock it down? How do I control and exert my will over the environment? And that's been this dominant divine masculine that we've been experiencing. And they're saying, okay, in the absence of that, in harmony, what it looks like is being in this lovely state of flow where we are taking purposeful action, but we are guided, that we're letting it move through us, that we're letting our experience rise up to meet us, and we're adapting and changing and evolving through this experience, right? That it is supposed to be a joyful process. And that's super true, that we are meant to be happy. We're meant to be joyful. So let's break it down and talk about it paragraph by paragraph. But to me, this is a super optimistic, amazing, supportive message. So hopefully you see it that way too. All right. So they say, first paragraph, we are bringing to you for perusal and understanding of what you are now. So they're saying, yep, this is another message about what's happening to you, or to say for you, what is happening for you right now. The times approaching are never far off in your minds. There is the elements of understanding that you are incorporating into the density of this realm. Right. So they're saying that there is right now that we are trying to draw into our experience of living a new understanding of ourselves. And that they say there is the knowledge of what this was and is and can become. And these must integrate into a total life sum of what you are and can hold. So we're trying to merge. And what we've been doing in the last couple of years, and I think really in this lifetime, they've said that this is a unique lifetime where we've been able to process all of our past lives. We've been bringing all of that into bear. And we've been trying to learn to be with what is, and now we're trying to accept and understand what we can become. So all of this we're trying to gain as an awareness, right? That we're trying to accept that. And it's not easy to accept that, because there's a lot of stuff in here that is not easy for us to wrap our heads around, right? Or it's challenging for us, for sure. Next paragraph, they say, the accountability of a life of your own is to be employed in the now knowing. And I love that right there, just to stop on that sentence, the accountability of a life of your own. So when we are granted the extreme privilege of having a life on earth, which it really is a huge privilege. So when we have that gift given to us, what we are accountable for, when we are given that gift, the accountability of having a life of our own, is to be employed in the now knowing. So is to be present and aware. So we are accountable for being present and aware. This is what we are meant to be doing when we are given a life. This is what we say we're going to be great at. Like, we're so full of confidence before we get here, and we actually live it. And then we're like, oh, it's hard. It's really hard. Right. But this is what we're supposed to do, is we're supposed to be in the now knowing, present awareness. They go on to say, is to be thought of and contemplated and considered. You are evolving within that context, within an understanding of yourself, within a frame of reference as being disposed to come and try hard and do well and succeed and be that self that you are here to evolve into. So they're saying that up until now, in this lifetime, that we came in with a certain frame of reference, that we came in with this understanding of what a life is going to be, right? And our understanding was that life was going to be framed in the context of this dominant masculine culture or way of understanding how to succeed, how to create, how to manifest, all these things. It was about exerting our will, about the strength of how we were going to make reality conform to what we wanted, that we were going to grind it out and just, that idea, just keep showing up. And that has been the way. And they're saying that has been the frame of reference, to come and try hard and do well and succeed, right? This is what we were thinking of as we came to Earth. And this is the world that we were born into. They go on to say, we see that you are in this moment finding yourself set adrift, that the template of life and instructions which you came with no longer apply, that all that has been done and welcomed is now unraveling. You find that the casement of this orchestration needs refitting. There is no portal, no window into this world by which you can contain an old frame of reference. So here they're saying, okay, yeah, you have this old perception that we all came in with, that we were all born into. And they're saying, yep, it is not going to be working anymore, that you're going to find yourselves feeling set adrift, as if we came in with a set of rules and those rules don't seem to be working. And so they're saying it no longer applies, that all that has been done and welcomed is now unraveling. So they say, do you find that the casement, and a casement is like a window frame, they say the casement of this orchestration needs refitting. So it's almost like the whole view that we look through. So think of it, and they say that there is no portal, no window into this world by which you can contain an old frame of reference. So there's no way to see it. There's no angle that you can turn to. There's no other window we can look through to look at the world, to see our reality where the old frame of reference is going to work. They're basically saying it's done. There's no more. It's pretty complete. So you find that the casement of this orchestration needs refitting. So in other words, in order for us to learn or to succeed in our world and to find a new way of being, we have to have a new set of rules. So they're going on to saying, the times coming are setting yourselves into motion in a way that cannot be stopped. It is nearer still than you imagine, and you are already in it. So they're basically saying that this is, and I think this is the polycrisis and the level of frustration that people are feeling in the world, and that sense of being up against things and not being able to find a pathway through, or things being super delayed, or and it's been crazy. Like I have noticed just recently, like there's massive traffic accidents everywhere. Everybody seems to be having major accidents, traffic problems, tech problems like crazy. And then there's also like global, of course, the poly crisis with it. Right now we have massive flooding in Vermont in the United States. It is a frustration is the word. I think that is the feeling that people are having right now. And that is the experience of this unraveling, right? It is the experience of it. So that, I think that is and they're going to talk about that more here. They talk about if you are feeling these energies, that's where the template sits for you. So they say the appearances amongst yourselves of changing differences, the methods by which you are accomplishing what you came for have already changed. So this new way of doing things, which is a whole lot easier if we can figure it out, they say it's already here and available, that we can just step into it. We can just go ahead and start using it. It's ready, right? We can do it now. They're saying there is within the self the desire to remain stable, to stay fixed, a point of knowledge of having been, of what you are. We say these are overturning a new leaf, a new fragrance, and this is unsettling. The instigation of this creates in the self untoward action. So they're saying here, and untoward is like inappropriate action. It's like the action that they don't want. And the second meaning of that is difficult to guide, which I think is really interesting because they're trying very hard to show us the way. But I think because we have what they're talking about here, the desire to remain stable, to stay fixed, right? That we have a sense of like how to do things and a way of solving problems, that we're clinging to that. And it makes it really hard for them to try to show us, no, do it this other way. Like stop. Like we're in a state of like control, control, control. And they're like, no, what you really want to do is jump off the cliff. And we're like, that sounds really scary. Like that's not going to work. It's never worked. But they're saying, well, it's going to work now. Not a real cliff, like a figurative cliff, just saying. So they go on to say that a desire for removal from here, just speaking of don't jump off a cliff, a desire for removal from here, a desire to repeat nothing of this performance, a desire to stay away, to fold in, to harbor for yourself only that which is required, and to stay low and insignificant. So it is this feeling of frustration can really drive people to feel feel really in contraction in a bunch of different ways, to be drawing their energy in, the idea to stay low and insignificant, to stay away, to not claim for yourself a life that's possible, right? And it is, only taking what you have to take. So it's like not finding the joy in life. And then the next step beyond that is to not step up and claim for yourself what it is that your life could be. So and that comes from the sense of like, I'm trying everything I know how, I'm using my whole bag of tricks, everything I know how to do, and nothing seems to be working. And so it will leave people with that feeling of being set adrift, of feeling like they, feeling potentially like life is no longer fun for them. So I think they're really, and to think about that as we recognize people may be feeling that, to try as best we can to stay in a place of real compassion, because that is not an easy thing to go through. They go on to say, we say you do nothing of the sort simply by being the breath that you are. So in other words, in terms of staying low and insignificant, you can't do that if you are just being the breath that you are, just breathing out the magnificence of your soul, of your self, you become significant. So the more that we are in that state of presence, the more that we are embodying our full self, the more significant we become without even trying, they're saying, right? You live in prosperity simply by elevating the self to the frequency of I am all things. You become that which you are emboldened to achieve. You cannot stay the same. You cannot stay mired in the mixed up causality of this time frame. This is an interesting phrase here. I really like how they said this. You cannot stay mired in the mixed up causality of this time frame. What they mean by that, causality is like cause and effect. What causes something to happen? And they're saying we have been stuck in a time frame where we are mixed up about what causes things. And we have, like, the idea of being behind the veil, of not understanding, of being asleep, of being, unawakened, is that people think that what's happening out in the world is happening to them. And they think that their problems are the fault of something out there that they have no control over, right? And that is the mixed up causality. What is causing it? They're mixed up about that. They don't yet see or feel or understand that the world is a reflection of their internal reality, right? That what's causing a hardship is something they feel inside. And so this is a beautiful way of saying it, that we've been mired in the mixed up causality of this time frame. You are moving by yourselves, within yourselves, and of yourselves into an entirely new contextual framework by which you will pronounce the self to have become and to be held within an evolution of the human species. So they go on to say, what does this feel like, look like? How can it be welcomed more readily? Like, this is what we all want to know. Like, okay, great. Sounds awesome. I want to do this. How? So now they're going to get into it. This is how we do it. They say, okay, we say you are within it now, and you feel the context surrounding yourselves. You feel your reluctance. Where are you dragging? Where are you held down? Where do you feel yourself up against anything? What is it that seems immovable? An object you cannot achieve? Where are you frustrated? The template is here, the template of a life of constraint that can be omitted. So they're saying, okay, so what is it that we can do right now to try to help us to step into this new way of being? And they're saying the first thing is to use this energy of frustration that's everywhere and to notice where it sits with you. So what is happening in your life right now that feels hard? Is anything that feels anything other than joyful? What is it? Like, where are you struggling right now? And it could be as simple as getting stuck in traffic, right? And so there is going to be somewhere in there is going to be a template for this old way of being. And it may be that you're a really aggressive driver, right? And maybe you are driving aggressively, and maybe you come into a big pile of traffic and you get held up because it's showing you the polarity of your desire to get somewhere quickly. And you can't, right? So it's going to be showing you this feeling of like, I'm trying to move something. And it's that sense of like, I want to push, I want to push, I want to push, and I can't. So this is this, and it might be something bigger. It might be that you're trying to switch jobs and it's like moving like a snail's pace and you can't seem to get things to move ahead. And so maybe that's because of some kind of, maybe your boss is standing in the way. Maybe the new boss is not moving ahead. And these are all going to be representing some aspect of this energy that you are moving through. So wherever it is that you're frustrated, look at that and say, what is in this for me right now to see? Where am I in resistance to the concept of being in flow? Like, where am I holding the energy of I'm trying to force it? What are you trying to force? And that's what we need to look at. And so it's super important as sort of the first step of embodying this process is to notice where are we not holding the energy of flow? And that is anywhere we are trying to force something. All right. So then, and that means whenever you're in resistance too. So it could be force, could be something where you're pushing, or it could also be where you're just pushing back. So you could be pushing forward or just in resistance. Both count, right? So it could be either one. They go on to say, lengthening time, as we have said. So they talked about lengthening time last week. Their message was all about the idea that of time, and they were talking about lengthening time and using that as a tool right now. So that's a great message to go back and listen to in reference to this one. So last week's message. They say lengthening time, as we have said, stretching out the sensation of living, takes for the self a new set of parameters by which you can achieve what you are seeking. So by this, they mean that when we slow down, when we're not pushing, when we're not forcing, then, and we allow ourselves to have the time and the space to see things from a new perspective, right? And they go on to say it here. They say, you can lengthen the time of your own understanding of what is difficult and allow the self to find the gaps in your perception to see things differently. So it's really like, sometimes I think when we are really focused on doing it and trying to control the situation, doing it our way, we are not able to see the pathway forward, which might be in flow. So we might be trying super, super hard to solve it the way we think it has to be solved, when all the while, all we have to do is open up to see things in a new way and then just follow where the energy flows and be carried, literally carried through it. And there's some beautiful stories people were sharing about this. As a matter of fact, so I recorded this earlier in a live, but the audio was terrible, so I'm doing it again. So, oh well. And but in it, one of the people who's was with me live was commenting that this had just happened to her, that she'd been stuck in a situation, and then she sort of came to her awareness and then sort of set it down for a minute and started to see it from a new angle. And then the situation just resolved itself. And I just was watching a YouTube video where this just happened, where this woman was telling a story, this little sweet woman telling the story about how she was behind a guy in a drive-through. And the guy was just stopped in this big truck, not moving, and for like 4 or 5 minutes. So she just very lightly like toots the horn, and the guy jumps out of his car and he's just like burning with anger. Like he's clearly like having a bad day, and his face is bright red, and he walks up, luckily her window's up, and he's just like hurling swear words at her and just, I mean, like furious, right? Like just abusing her through the window. And she said in that moment, something happened, and it's like she shifted into Christ consciousness, and all she could feel for this guy was loving compassion. All she could do was see how much pain he was in. And it was like, it was just flowing out of her. And I think eventually she said to him through the window, like, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to make you upset or something like that. And the guy storms away, gets back in his car, cursing. And then he goes on and he drives through the window. And then she goes through places her order, drives through the window. And sure enough, she drives up to pay for her order, and he had covered her entire order, right? And talk about shifting the energy instantly, because she was holding this lovely energy of compassion. So rather than meeting his anger with anger, she was able to see it from a new perspective, and it shifted things immediately. And I think that is the kind of thing we're talking about here, right? It can be amazing. So they go on to say to lengthen the time, right? Lengthen the time so that you can see it differently. They go on to say you can harness the new way of offering within which the self can now be open to the transference of God light more easily, which is exactly what happened to her, right? You can find the self in flow more rapidly, can feel the trodden upon, denatured self give way, and find in its place a heightened state of reflection and affirmation within which all flows in grace. So this is exactly what she was talking about. But I mean, like, yeah, it's a drive-through, but the thing is that that's life. Like you don't have to be, constantly walking around in like blissful states of flowers and stuff like that. Like if this happens in the drive-through, like this is living, and it's just by being out in the world and holding this energy and holding your awareness and trying our best to try to stay in that state or to get to that state, even for a minute, it can have an incredible, like she wasn't in that state all day. She was in that state for a minute, and it had this incredible transformative effect on the energy. So to go back to this word here, they say, can feel the trodden upon denatured self. So that is like our embattled karmic self, right? Give way. And they've said that we're going to be releasing our karma, right? It gives way and find in its place a heightened state of, number one, reflection. So this is one of my favorite things the angels do, where they use words that mean multiple things, because the angels are not linear like we are. They don't just see one thing at a time. They see everything. So they frequently choose words that are like the way they think, where it says one word says three things. So here we are, reflection. So reflection is like a meditation, right? Where you reflect, you have serious thoughts about something. You're deeply thoughtful about something. So that is reflection. The first one. Second one, so this is like a heightened state of like a meditative state, right? Is what they're talking about. The next thing they say, reflection also means the effect produced by an influence. So this is the God light, the effect the effect of this God light, of holding this God light inside of us. What is the effect of it? How does it reflect on us? Right. So that is, and then there's also mirroring, that we then take that God light, it changes us, right? It is the effect produced on us by this light. And then we then reflect like a mirror that energy out into the world. It changes us and it changes everyone around us. So, which is super cool. Then they say the state of reflection and affirmation. And an affirmation is like like emotional support and encouragement. So this is a really amazing, lovely thing that we all want. I want it. Yes, please. I want this. This is amazing, right? I want to be able to do this all the time. This sounds amazing. And it's not easy, because I have been as type A as the rest. Like I have always, I've understood how to solve things from that perspective of grind it out and work hard and all this kind of stuff. And so this is a retraining, and it's learning how to stay out of that mindset and to step into a state of flow. All right. So they go on to say, we say the context that you are in now, it frustrates the self deeply. It pits the self against something which seems immovable. There is amongst yourselves a quagmire of thinking, of complexity, problem solving, a sense of selves as in dire circumstances or trouble, the convoluted pathways that need figuring, puzzling, where you cannot seem to find your way yourself. So they're describing what it is to be in this state of having known a way to navigate our life by using more of these imbalanced masculine energies, or our own imbalanced masculine energies, that and they're saying that as we are going through this process of seeing their effectiveness unwind, it can put us into a sense of like feeling like things are immovable, that we're in a quagmire, that it's like this complexity that we can't solve. And the way that we're going to come at it is by trying to stay in our head, which is that masculine problem solving. We're going to be puzzling. We're going to be, what do they say here? They say, problem solving, a sense of selves in dire circumstances, of convoluted pathways that need figuring, puzzling. So we're going to be stuck in our heads. That's what they're saying. There are difficulties you are having, sometimes grave challenges you are in. These are all transfixed within the energy of keeping and holding and locking down. And here they're going to give us like a list of, this is what the energy of this old way of being is. They're saying keeping, having, locking down. So think about how controlling that is, right? Keeping, having, it's like clenching. You can feel it, right? This is how we try to control our world. They say these are all held within the frequency of having, holding, making, doing, retaining, forcing, controlling. These are held in the old ways of beginning and being. And this is not to say that we're not meant to make things or we're not meant to do things, because we're meant to bring these two into balance. This is not about the feminine replacing the masculine. It is about the two working together. So it means that we're not meant to try to do our way out of feeling our feeling. Like we're not meant to do until the divine feminine has come in and had its moment to receive that divine inspiration. The feminine is what leads. The feminine is the leader. The feminine needs to receive and understand the greater wisdom of like, what are we supposed to do? What is the best answer here? How should we move forward? And once the feminine has that, then we can bring in the masculine and say, great, okay, masculine, what is your plan? Here is the what, you come up with the how. And then once they have the how, then the feminine, they can say, okay, great, here's a plan. And then the feminine, the entire time, they'll be working together. And the feminine will say, wait, I'm feeling we should do it. Turn this way. The flow is, I see the flow. Don't go the way you were planning. Go this way. And so the two are constantly working together. And that's what we're trying to get to. But it takes the letting go. Like what we've been doing is say, okay, rather than waiting for my divine feminine to receive and to feel my way towards flow, I'm just going to start doing. I'm just going to jump into action. I'm going to do. And if it's not working, I'm going to do it harder. Right. And that's been the old way. And so that's why they mention it here. So it doesn't mean stop doing. It just means do differently. All right. But what we do want to drop is this forcing, right? Controlling, locking down, keeping that energy, holding, especially as we're moving into this whole energy, like the, age of Aquarius is all about sharing. It's about openness, right? It's a huge shift for us in so many ways. All right. Moving on. They say these are in a state of flux, in the stages of ending. They are terminating around yourselves. They are drifting. They are not meeting their ends. The methods by which you could create, the methods by which you could orchestrate a life seem to be not working, seem to be adrift, and they are, we say, they are changing. The world is mired in the complex evolution of many souls united as one spirit. You are all intermixed and intermingled in the process of your own shifting. Thus, the boundaries and solutions of the lives you lead are no longer discernible. So this is very interesting, I think, as they're saying that we're not, none of us are an island, that we are one consciousness that is shared among all people, and that we are all individual expressions, but that humanity is a collective. And so it's this idea that as this is falling apart, it's affecting all of us. It doesn't matter how far along you are on your journey or how much you've cleared or how ready you are, how enthusiastic you are. This, because it's falling apart and because we're sort of surrounded in this, it's everywhere. And somebody else's distress, the guy in front of you who's in the drive-through, who's having a really bad day, he's coming up to your window, so like it's in your life. It's right there because we're sharing space down here. So they're saying like it's blended. And so we all need to be present. The more present we can all be. So it goes the reverse. The more of the energy that we can hold, the more we can shift. That then helps everyone. It benefits everybody. Just like in that story, the woman benefited, the guy. He left feeling peaceful. He left feeling calm, like he had an awareness about himself, which is amazing, to get from that state of complete unawareness where he was in a state of crazy rage to a state where he moved into a state of kindness is pretty amazing. Yeah. All right. So then they say, you become, so because of this fact that we are blended with everybody, but the fact that these energies are throughout all of us, they're talking about as we're moving through the stages of this ending of so many of these things that we have counted on in terms of how do we solve our problems. They say you become like a bull that charges its own reflection, the self that cannot comprehend its own misery, but keeps trying and trying and trying again. So this is that idea of like, just, okay, this isn't working, but it always worked in the past. So I'm just going to keep trying. I'm just going to keep doing it because I don't know any other way. And they're saying, okay, we got to take a breath and learn the new way. They say, okay, so we say this state of things, the knowledge of what you are confuses the self. It draws you back into old patterns of behavior and solution to find the self-seeking methods and ways by which you have done for yourself in the past. So this is what our tendency is. When something doesn't work, we go back and try to use what's always worked, even if we keep doing it again and again, and it's still not working. They go on to say, these are no longer working. We say, let go yourself, let go your pride, let go your effect, let go all that seems logical and surmisable, and simply be. Rest in the space of inaccomplishment. So how do we unravel this? It's to go against the rules that we've been taught about how to do things, right? And to allow ourselves to stay in the space of inaccomplishment, to say, okay, rather than taking, I've got this huge list of problems I got to solve today, and rather than grind it out, if something's not working, if I make an attempt and it doesn't work, I'm going to set it down and I'm going to move to the next thing, and I'm going to keep going down the list until I find one of these things that are in flow. Which of the things on this list moves easy for me today? And wherever my energy flows easy, that's where I'm going to go. And if something doesn't work, I'm going to stay in a space of inactivity and I'll try it again later, or I'll wait to see how it opens up. I'm going to be in a state of non-resistance to that. And that doesn't mean don't try. It means keep coming, return back to it, reevaluate, but not from a state of frustration. That's where we want to stay out of. We want to be in a space of allowing, saying, okay, the problem is still there, and I trust that a solution will come forward, and I will continue to watch and wait and notice and look for that solution. It's a really different feeling than forcing it and grinding it and grinding it. It's really funny. Like, I think about people that I know that I've been talking with recently who were working through a real struggle, and they were waiting for some really important news. And during that time, the news was always going to come at the same time. Like, it was going to come on that Tuesday that it came on. Like, that was the day it was going to arrive. And during the time they were waiting, the 2 weeks that they were waiting for that Tuesday, they didn't know it was going to come on Tuesday. And that was part of the problem. They didn't know. And they were trying to control, right? They were trying to manage, and they were worry about, like, what about this news? Am I going to get the news? Is it going to come? Is it going to come? And because it's not coming, I should start something else. I should start trying this other thing because maybe that won't work. And all of this, right? Which is control. And the funny thing is that the Tuesday was always going to be the same Tuesday. So they could have spent that time totally zenned out, trusting and having faith that the Tuesday, whenever it would be, was going to come, or they could spend it in trying, right? I can't do any more here, so I'm going to go try it somewhere else. And which one sounds more fun? Which one is a better life? It's like, it's pretty clear to me. Like, this idea of, like, okay, if you're not in flow, shift and try something else and watch the energy shift and try again. So, all right. So they go on to say, stay in the space of the gravest forces and sense you are held in the divine love of expression, and know this is the pathway forward. So in other words, you might be in the direst of circumstances. You might be in real trouble about something. And they say, if we can get into the mindset of you are held in divine love of expression, that you're being held by love, and know that this love is the pathway forward, that by holding that love changes you, and it changes everything around you. So it can shift the energy. They say to simply be, to rest within the shell of your own physicality, and to trust that all is well, to put the self no longer in juxtaposition to what is. So it's that idea of stop resisting, but to sense there is something new coming. There is a new pathway forward you cannot feel, but it exists nonetheless. The more you are open, the more you rest well into the feeling of being supported, the more it appears. It is the sense of what you are expanding to include, the definition of your higher self. So this is what we're trying to bring in, is our higher self. The sense that you are monitored and made by the divine energy, that you are this, that you can improve your lives, shatter old thinking, let go of old ways, and simply be. Find the frustrations you're experiencing to dissolve, like old thinking. The ways will part, the change is now, and you are experiencing the beginnings. And they say, we thank you. So super, super cool message, I got to say. And I love how I think they were very specific here about what is it that we can notice in our own world and what we're doing now. It helps us to identify why are we experiencing this sort of frustration that's going around right now, right? And what does it mean? And how do we use it? Because everything is for us. So how do we use it, right? Notice that and say, okay, if I'm experiencing this frustration, that means I am not in the flow. I'm in juxtaposition. I'm resisting what's happening. And so if I'm frustrated, that naturally means I am resisting what's happening. So I gotta take a second look at it. I gotta give myself, as they said, the remedy, give yourself space, expand the moment, bring your presence into the moment, and try to sit with it when you're not in resistance, and see if a new perspective comes in. See if you learn to see it from a new way. And so this is how they're suggesting that we try to learn to work with this energy. So just to be super, super aware in our daily life and living of anywhere you come across, where are you in resistance? What is not moving for you? Where are you frustrated? And then to stop, bring time, right? Expand the moment and see if you can shift. See if you can shift from a new perspective. All right, you guys, super, super cool message. Again, if you want to know about peace bathing, if you would like to join us, it is this upcoming Sunday, what is that, 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific. And the details are on my website, anntucker.com. Come and you will experience an amazing and beautiful healing with the angels. It will blow your mind. Thanks, you guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.